I think working at the Palladium Theatre in London for the first time was.
Judy Garland never needed to tell you which movies mattered most to her. You could hear it in her voice. You could see it in her eyes. Every time she stepped in front of a camera, something personal came with her. She wasn't just acting, she was revealing herself. From the moment audiences first saw her, there was a feeling she carried that couldn't be taught. Vulnerability, longing, joy sitting dangerously close to heartbreak. She could make fantasy feel real and reality feel fragile. Judy Garland's career wasn't built on perfection, it was built on honesty. On letting the cracks show, on singing through emotion instead of around it. That's why her performances still resonate decades later. She never published a neat list of her favorite films. But fans, critics, and historians have noticed a pattern. Certain movies stand out, moments where her talent, timing, and truth align perfectly. Films that didn't just define her career, they defined her legacy. Tonight, we're counting down 6 films most closely associated with Judy Garland at her best. From Technicolor dreams to raw grown-up drama. From innocence to resilience. As we move from 6 to 1, listen closely. Not just to the songs, but to the emotion underneath them. And ask yourself this. Which Judy Garland performance didn't just entertain you, but stayed with you long after the screen went dark? Number 6. Summer Stock. By the time Summer Stock was made, Judy Garland was exhausted. Not creatively, personally, physically, emotionally. This wasn't just another MGM musical, it was the end of something. And you can feel it in every frame. On the surface, the film is light, almost playful, a farm girl, a theater troupe, rehearsals colliding with daily chores, music spilling into places it doesn't belong.
You get paid by
But beneath the cheer is tension. Not just in the story, in the performance. Garland plays Jane Falberry, a practical woman trying to hold her ground while chaos moves in around her. She's responsible, guarded, resistant to fantasy. And slowly, against her instincts, she lets it in. That push and pull mirrors where Garland was in her own life. Production on the film was troubled. Delays, health struggles, studio pressure. It would become her final project for MGM. The same studio that made her a star. The same studio that controlled her for years. That history hangs quietly over the film. And yet, when Garland appears on screen, none of that dulls her power. There's a grounded quality to Jane. She's not wide-eyed. She's wary. She questions why people sing instead of speak. Why emotion has to be performed instead of stated plainly. It's a meta question. One Garland herself had lived with. When does performance stop being joy and start being obligation? Gene Kelly's Joe Ross answers that question simply. Because sometimes words aren't enough. Sometimes music is the only way truth comes out. That idea sits at the heart of the film. The turning point arrives late. The number everyone remembers. Get happy. Garland steps out in a tuxedo jacket and fedora. No frills, no farm, no pretense. Just confidence, rhythm, and control.
It's all so peaceful on the other side.
It's not a girl next door performance. It's a declaration. She doesn't ask for permission. She commands the frame. What makes the moment unforgettable isn't just the choreography. It's the contrast. The woman who spent the film resisting spectacle finally embraces it. On her own terms, with authority. Knowing this was her last MGM performance gives the number extra weight. It feels like a goodbye. Not dramatic, not bitter, but unmistakable. Garland doesn't overplay Jane's journey. She allows it to unfold naturally. Guarded warmth, earned affection. A woman choosing joy without pretending it's easy. That's why Summer Stock matters. It captures Garland at a crossroads. Still radiant, still magnetic, but older, wiser. Less willing to disappear into fantasy without cost. The innocence of Oz is gone. What replaces it is resolve. Number 5. The Harvey Girls. Before Judy Garland became synonymous with emotional collapse and comeback, she played something rarer: independence. The Harvey girls arrived at a moment when Hollywood still wanted her bright, hopeful, and reassuring, and she delivered. But look closer, and there's steel under the smile. Garland plays Susan Bradley, a young woman who travels west to marry a man she knows only through letters. It's a romantic idea, old-fashioned, trusting, and it collapses almost immediately. The man admits the letters were a joke, a prank. Susan is humiliated in public, far from home, with no plan and no protection. Most musicals would rush to soften that blow. This one doesn't. Instead, Susan makes a decision. She stays. She joins the Harvey girls. She works. She builds something for herself. The romance comes later, if at all. That choice mattered.
He sent John Alden to propose for him. And John Alden said he would. It's a wonderful story.
Garland understood it instinctively. At MGM, she was often cast as the girl who waits, who hopes, who believes. The Harvey girls lets her pivot. Susan doesn't retreat, she adapts. The frontier town is rough, lawless, dominated by saloons and men who expect women to disappear into the background. Susan refuses. The film frames civilization as an act of courage. Order doesn't arrive through force. It arrives through persistence, through women showing up every day and refusing to be erased. That's a powerful idea for a musical wrapped in Technicolor cheer. And Garland sells it completely. Her performance is brisk, alert, and quietly defiant. She isn't naive. She's optimistic with boundaries. The humor lands because she plays intelligence, not innocence. When she sings on the Atchison, Topeka, and the Santa Fe, it's joy fueled by momentum.
Where I come from, I've done a lot of dreaming and I've traveled.
Movement as liberation. The song won an Academy Award, but its importance goes beyond melody. It captures a woman choosing motion over stagnation, leaving disappointment behind without letting it define her. There's also something symbolic in the setting. The West is possibility, as reinvention. Susan isn't chasing romance anymore. She's claiming space. That arc mirrors Garland's own desire for agency during her studio years, even if she wasn't always granted it. The film balances lightness with bite. Saloon owner Emma is sharp. The women clash, power shifts. Nothing feels passive. Even when the tone stays playful, the stakes are clear. Respect isn't given, it's negotiated. Garland thrives in that environment. She had a gift for making optimism feel earned, not blind, not forced. In The Harvey Girls, she radiates forward motion, a sense that life can change if you keep stepping into it. That's why the film stayed with audiences. Number 4, Easter Parade. By the time Easter Parade arrived, Judy Garland had already proven something rare. She could match legends without disappearing beside them. And standing opposite Fred Astaire, that mattered. This film is built on rhythm, timing, precision. Every step has a purpose. Every pause is calculated. That kind of control could have swallowed a lesser performer. Garland doesn't fight it. She bends it to her own energy. She plays Hannah Brown, a chorus girl who is underestimated almost instantly. Not polished enough, not exotic enough. Not what the world thinks a perfect partner should look like. That tension drives the story, and Garland leans into it.
Johnny, have you heard from Don? I haven't seen him since yesterday morning, and I've been calling every place.
Hannah isn't chasing approval. She's learning when to stop apologizing for who she is. Astaire's Don Hughes begins the film obsessed with ideals. He wants perfection, a partner who fits his vision. Hannah refuses to shrink herself to meet it. Their banter is sharp, playful, and edged with truth. When she calls herself a lemon instead of a peach, it's funny, and it's revealing. The joke lands because it cuts. Garland understood that moment. Her career had been shaped by comparison, by being told what she should look like, how she should sound, who she should be next to. Easter Parade gives her space to challenge that quietly without speeches. What makes the film work is balance. Astaire brings elegance. Garland brings warmth. His movements glide. Hers pulse. Together they create contrast instead of competition. That chemistry is why the film endured. The musical numbers are classic. Irving Berlin's songs stitched into moments that feel effortless. But what stands out isn't just the choreography, it's Garland's comic timing, her reactions.
No, sorry, we would drive.
The way she listens on screen, she doesn't rush to the punchline, she lets it find her. That restraint elevates everything. As Hannah gains confidence, the story shifts. Don's standards loosen, his idea of perfection evolves. The film suggests something subtle but powerful. That growth doesn't always come from ambition. Sometimes it comes from affection, from being seen clearly by someone who refuses to be reduced. Garland's performance carries that idea beautifully. She never turns Hannah into a fantasy. She keeps her grounded, a working performer, talented, ambitious, human. When Don finally admits he doesn't want the best, but wants her, it lands because Garland has earned it. Not through transformation, through presence. The film was a major success, the highest grossing musical of its year. But its legacy is quieter than that. It shows Garland in control of tone, comedy, romance, dance. She doesn't just keep up with a stare, she anchors the film emotionally. That matters. In a genre obsessed with surface, Garland brings interior life. You feel what Hannah feels: doubt, excitement, pride, relief. The dance numbers sparkle because something real is underneath them. Number 3, A Star is Born. This was not just a role, it was a reckoning. By the time Judy Garland stepped into A Star is Born, she was no longer Hollywood's miracle child. She was a woman carrying scars, professional, personal, public. This film didn't ask her to hide them, it asked her to use them. Garland plays Esther Blodgett, later known as Vicki Lester, a singer with talent waiting to be seen. A woman whose rise is fueled by love, and whose success slowly exposes the cost of that love. On paper, it's a familiar story. On screen, it feels painfully specific. Because Garland wasn't acting from imagination, she was drawing from memory. The film arrived after she left MGM, after years of studio control, exhaustion, and dismissal.
The winds grow colder, suddenly you're older.
This was her comeback, and everyone knew it. The pressure wasn't subtle. Critics watched closely. Hollywood waited to judge whether she still belonged. Garland answered without restraint. Her performance is raw, layered, and unprotected. When she sings The Man That Got Away, it isn't a showstopper. It's a confession. Regret spills into every note.
Tomorrow he will turn up. There's just no let up.
Longing shapes every pause. She doesn't perform the song, she survives it. James Mason's Norman Maine sees Esther before the world does. He recognizes her talent. He believes in her. And slowly, as her star rises, his begins to fall. The film refuses to make him a villain. Addiction, jealousy, and despair are shown as erosion, not evil. That complexity mattered to Garland. She understood loving someone who is unraveling. She understood how success can create distance instead of security. She understood how admiration can turn into obligation. Esther's joy is real, but it's never uncomplicated. The film's emotional power comes from contrast. Public triumph against private collapse. Applause against isolation. Garland plays both sides without blinking. Her Esther glows on stage, then shrinks in quiet moments when the truth catches up. There is no glamour in those scenes, only honesty. Garland famously lost the Academy Award for Best Actress. Many still consider it one of the great injustices in Oscar history. But awards were never the point. The performance endures because it doesn't seek approval. It seeks recognition. The final act devastates because it refuses comfort. Esther must choose how to carry someone else's legacy without being consumed by it. Her final line, spoken through tears and resolve, lands not as triumph, but as survival. When your talent lifts you higher than the people you love, how do you keep from losing yourself? For Judy Garland, this film wasn't just a comeback. It was proof. Proof that vulnerability could carry epic weight. That truth could outlast spectacle. And that sometimes the bravest performance is simply refusing to look away from who you are. Number 2, Meet Me in St. Louis. This is where Judy Garland learned how to sound like home. Meet Me in St. Louis doesn't announce itself as a landmark, it unfolds. Season by season, song by song, a family living ordinary days while the future quietly threatens to pull them apart. And at the center of it all is Garland's Esther Smith. Bright, spirited, deeply rooted. Garland was only in her early 20s, but the performance feels timeless.
Though I dream of him all the while.
Esther isn't a fantasy heroine. She's a young woman learning how to hold on to joy while the world shifts around her. She falls in love, she fights injustice, she resists change, and slowly she learns what matters most. That emotional grounding is why the film lasts. Director Vincente Minnelli frames the story like a memory. Warm colors, carefully composed rooms, streets that feel safe because they're familiar. Garland fits perfectly inside that world because she understands its fragility. The happiness on screen is genuine, and therefore temporary. Esther's optimism isn't blind. When she stands up to a bully, she does it with conviction. When her family's potential move threatens everything she loves, she doesn't hide her fear. Garland plays these moments without exaggeration. She lets them feel lived in. Then there's the music. The trolley song bursts with energy. It's excitement made audible.
I went to lose a jolly hour on the trolley and lost my heart instead.
The rush of first love. The thrill of possibility. Garland's voice lifts the number, but her performance anchors it. You believe Esther's heart is racing because Garland lets you see it. But the soul of the film arrives later. Have yourself a merry little Christmas.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas.
It's not flashy, it's not loud, it's almost unbearably gentle. Garland sings it to comfort her younger sister, but the weight belongs to her too. Loss, uncertainty, the fear that happiness might not survive change. Garland sings through restraint. Every note feels like it's being held back to keep something from breaking. That moment transformed the song forever. It's not just a holiday standard, it's a quiet promise that joy may shrink, that times may grow harder, but connection still matters. That message hit audiences during wartime, and it still hits now. For Garland, this film represented stability she rarely had off screen. A loving family, a sense of belonging, a future that felt possible. Perhaps that's why she inhabits it so fully. The film doesn't end with triumph. It ends with compromise. The family stays, dreams adjust, life continues. And that's the point. Happiness isn't about getting everything you want. It's about protecting what you can't replace. Garland understood that instinctively. Meet Me in St. Louis shows her at her most balanced, joyful without denial, emotional without collapse. It's a performance built on trust. Trust in material, trust in tone, trust that quiet moments can carry as much power as spectacle. Here's the question the film leaves behind. When change threatens the place you call home, what would you fight hardest to keep? For Judy Garland, this film wasn't just nostalgic, it was foundational. A reminder that her greatest strength wasn't just her voice, it was her ability to make audiences feel like they belonged right beside her. Number 1, The Wizard of Oz. This is the film that never let Judy Garland go. Not because it was perfect, because it was permanent. The Wizard of Oz didn't just introduce her to the world, it fused her image, her voice, and her vulnerability into something timeless. Judy Garland was only 16 when she played Dorothy Gale, but the performance carries an emotional weight far beyond her years. Dorothy isn't brave because she's fearless. She's brave because she's scared and keeps going anyway. That distinction matters. Garland understood it instinctively. From the first moments in Kansas, Dorothy feels out of place, restless, misunderstood, dreaming of somewhere else without fully knowing why. That yearning is the engine of the film, and Garland makes it feel personal, not poetic. Then comes Over the Rainbow.
Eyes are blue and the
It isn't sung to impress, it's sung to confess. A quiet wish spoken out loud for the first time. Garland doesn't push the note. She lets it hover, fragile and hopeful. In that moment, the entire fantasy rests on belief, and audiences believed her. The transition to Oz is famous for its color, but the real transformation is emotional. Dorothy doesn't become stronger because the world gets brighter. She becomes stronger because responsibility finds her. She gathers companions who reflect parts of herself: fear, doubt, kindness, longing. Garland anchors all of it. She treats the Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Cowardly Lion as equals. She listens to them, encourages them, protects them. Leadership comes naturally to her Dorothy because it's rooted in empathy, not authority. That quality defined Garland's screen presence throughout her career. The Wicked Witch is terrifying not because of magic, but because she represents consequence. Adult danger, real threat. Garland reacts with genuine fear. No irony, no bravado. Her terror grounds the fantasy. And yet, the film never becomes cynical. The wizard himself is a fraud. The power structures collapse. The answers turn out to be internal. Home isn't discovered, it's remembered. The lesson lands because Garland sells it completely. There's no place like home isn't a slogan. It's a realization. Dorothy doesn't reject Oz because it's false. She leaves because she's learned who she is. That arc followed Garland for the rest of her life. Audiences never stopped seeing Dorothy in her. The girl who wanted something better. The voice that sounded like hope and heartbreak sharing the same breath. The innocence that survived even as life complicated everything around it. That permanence became both a gift and a burden. The Wizard of Oz overshadowed everything that came after, even when Garland delivered deeper, riskier work. But it also gave her immortality. Generations found her the same way. Young, searching, honest. If the thing that defines you is created when you're young, how do you grow beyond it without losing yourself? For Judy Garland, The Wizard of Oz was never just a beginning. It was a shadow, a compass, and a reminder of the girl who taught the world how to dream, and in doing so, became unforgettable. Judy Garland never chose these films to define her. They defined her because she gave them something real. Vulnerability without protection, joy without certainty, pain without disguise. Each performance carried a piece of her, and audiences felt it immediately. From wide-eyed longing in Oz to hard-won resilience in adulthood, these films trace a life lived in public while emotions stayed deeply personal. Garland didn't perform perfection. She performed truth, and that truth aged better than spectacle ever could. What makes her legacy endure isn't nostalgia alone, it's recognition. The sense that she felt things the way we feel them. That she sang not to escape reality, but to survive it. Even at her most glamorous, something fragile remained visible. These 6 films aren't just highlights, they're milestones. Moments where talent, timing, and honesty collided. They show an artist growing up on screen, learning what home means, what love costs, and how strength can exist alongside fear. And maybe that's why Judy Garland still matters. Because she reminds us that courage isn't loud, it doesn't always win. Sometimes it just keeps going. So now the question turns to you. Which Judy Garland performance stayed with you the longest? Which one feels closest to who she truly was? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if this journey moved you, like the video and subscribe for more deep dives into classic cinema. Because great performances don't fade, they stay with us.